Ushahidi originally started in end of 2007, early 2008, as a way for people to report sort of eyewitness reports. Ushahidi means testimony, and a way for ordinary citizens to just tell the reports of what they're witnessing, whether it's acts of violence, acts of peace, you know, issues, supplies that they needed, etc. And the beauty of it was its simplicity, and combining multiple forms of reporting, so that, you know, at any one point there's some redundancy built into it. So we have email, you can send reports by email, by internet, via your phone, via voice now recently, via Twitter hashtags, Facebook, etc. Those reports are then visualized on a map and categorized, and so you can pinpoint but, you know, sort of specific city, street by street, what's going on. And, you know, since then, since the initial version, we've open sourced the tool and to make it available. So next time there's a crisis, people don't have to build something from scratch, for instance. And so in the case of Haiti and even the floods in Pakistan, the site was up within, you know, 24 hours. And the idea is to allow, really, the heart of it is just to allow citizens to share and to say, look, citizens or individuals can report or can tell stories around them. We've also evolved for more than just crisis situations. So there's a zombie reports Ushahidi that was very popular over Halloween. Were used recently by The Guardian in the UK during the Pope's visit, and so people were sending reports about the Pope's visit. The BBC was using us during, there have been a couple of tube strikes in London. So again, it's a way just to track individual stories, individual intelligence, depending on the situation, or maybe just visualizing. Very popular around election, citizen sort of reporting on election, did things go well, did things go not well. And yeah, it's the growth has been incredible.
What's the scope of it?
Sure. So there's two versions now. We've evolved. We are actually releasing 2.0 version in a few days. So we've evolved. I think we're 7 languages and counting now. And because we're open source, the community has helped us, for instance, do the translations. There's French, Spanish, Russian, which has been quite huge, Kiswahili, Arabic, and growing. We've just recently launched a tool to make it easier for people to translate, the community to manage the translations. The software has been downloaded, I think, almost 6,000 times from GitHub. I mean, some can't track the total downloads, but it's definitely in the thousands. And again, used for like in all over the world. I don't think there's a continent that it's not been used. And we launched a hosted version because the downloadable version you still need to have some tech experience. It's PHP based to install and run it. So it was a challenge, especially for small organizations or individuals who wanted to set up their own little thing. So we've modeled ourselves a lot on WordPress. So the same way they have a version that you can install on your own server, and a hosted one that they host. We have a hosted version called CrowdMap that you can set it up and be running, you know, in about half an hour or less.
What is your company, and what are your plans?
Sure. We've evolved with four co-founders, and now we've grown to a team of 13 full-time members all over the world. I think we're like in 7 time zones, so it's a bit of a challenge. We're still largely virtual, although we've helped sponsor an innovation hub in Nairobi, so we have a physical base in Nairobi, and we have quite a number of part-time team members that help us on different projects as well. I think our focus up to this point has been just on getting the code out there and refining the tool. And now we're starting to work on sustainability and ways that we don't have to rely so much on foundations, but generate our own income. So the tool will always be free, but now we do customizations for a fee or advisory work for a fee, consultations. So what's coming up over the next few years is a focus on sustainability, but also on building community. So we have a great developer community, but we're realizing, you know, open source is not just about sort of putting the code there, which we're very naive in the beginning. We thought we'd just put the tool there and that's it. But at the same time, we don't have the bandwidth to advise on each and every use of the tool. But building a strong enough community that can support each other, can share their experiences. And so we're revamping our website to include a whole new community section where people can share their experiences, organize Ushahidi bar camps, and you know, have a marketplace for plugins. So we've built in plugin architecture, which was huge, because we couldn't keep up with all the feature requests, right? Wouldn't it be great if Ushahidi could do this and do that? And it was very hard to factor that back into the code. So we've built a lot of a plugin. So for instance, there's a voice plugin that allows people who maybe can't SMS or are not literate, they can call in a report, for instance. And that's also big. So making the tool as extensible as possible. And then finally, mobile applications. So we revamped our iPhone app is coming out soon. That's revamped. Java is a revamped versions come out soon. We already have Windows and Android out there. We just released 2 days ago Android SMS syncing system. Because most of the syncing systems are still quite complicated for the average user to use, and we're finding Android is a bit easier. So lots of interesting developments, and the idea is just to keep growing and to keep always being at the edge of innovation.
Let me ask you this. Talk about innovation in Africa for a minute.
Sure. I think you will see a lot of tools or similar stories about sort of innovation at the edge, but then that has a global applicability. So for instance, what Ushahidi is doing is, there's been GIS, there's been sort of Google Maps. These are all not necessarily new in that sense, but what sets us apart, because we were developing for, let's say, a low bandwidth area, visuals were important because people can understand that better. Mobile was a no-brainer, and I think for us, things that are no-brainer is probably an innovation elsewhere, but we're like, look, this is the situation we have to deal with, and we have to develop for a difficult, or not difficult, I'd say challenging. And so you're seeing a lot of lighter, faster, simpler tools. And I think you'll continue to see more of that, because you have to think differently about how to maybe reach your audience, or how to make a tool that's practical at the end of the day, right? So whereas what you see from the West is sort of, gadgety upon, and it can do X, Y, and Z and all sorts of other things, you're more likely to see sort of simpler, efficient, practical tools that come out that address real problems. You've seen that in mobile money innovations are quite interesting. A lot of SMS-based applications are coming out, but I think it's more just saying, look, we are more about sort of, okay, this is a practical problem, and how do we solve that practical problem? A lot of times, though, the innovation has been sort of very local. And what I do when I talk to developers in Africa, and when we talk about the story of Ushahidi, is say, look, there's a whole world out there, and rather than just focusing on your little space here, let's develop tools that are agnostic, and let's be proud to say, look, we can build stuff that can compete toe-to-toe with any of these big companies. I mean, Microsoft came out with something, Vine, that was very Ushahidi looking like. But 2 years ago, right after we launched, and they quietly sort of shut it down. And a lot of people you're seeing are trying to do. Foursquare just did also around the US election something that looked very much like Ushahidi. So it's very interesting to see, for once, people trying to clone a product that's come out of Africa, rather than the other way around, where we're trying to clone like Facebook and other tools. And yeah, I think there's just, we've just scratched the surface. There is a lot to be done, just as far as making, building confidence, sort of the softer things among the developers, building confidence, getting them more sophisticated about understanding the markets, what the potential are. But for sure, the intellect is there, the talent is there, the ability to think outside of the box is there.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on all your accomplishments.
Thank
and winning
you.
the award.
Thank you very much.